Thanks for coming tonight. Luckily, we didn't plan to do this outdoors. That'd be a real bummer. If we were at some picnic pavilion somewhere, we'd be roasting ourselves out. So glad. Thanks, Nancy, for hosting us again. This is great here. The perfect place. So my name is Jason Neises. I've met a lot of you, but some of you I'm looking forward to talking with a little bit more tonight, maybe. And I am the Heart and Soul coach for Monroe City Heart and Soul. And I'm with the Community Foundation of Greater Dubuque in Iowa. So it's 3-ish hours from here. But I got assigned to coach your town, and I have been working with you all for the better part of a year now, getting this going and coached you through phase 1. And we're here on phase 2. So that's what we're going to do tonight. But before we get started on what the training is, I want to make sure we do some quick introductions in case there are some new voices in the room. So let's start over here, and I'll just kind of point at you and you just introduce yourself. And I'm really good at finding people who've got food in their mouths. That's my specialty. So how about over here? Since
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Kayla Murphy, and I'm a high school counselor here.
Okay, Kayla. All right.
I'm Red Strime. I'm going to be a sophomore at high school.
I'm Jackson Town. I'm going to be a junior at the public high school.
And I'm Bridget Cooper. I work at Learning Opportunities Quality Works, and I'm the project coordinator.
Yay!
Who's here for Bridget?
It's hard to follow up that up, but I'm Julie Gilkey, and I'm president of our downtown organization.
I'm Kim Heron, and I am a newbie to the area, so wanting to help the growth of town.
My name is Lindsay Williams. I work for the Department of Mental Health, and I've been a citizen here for 40 years.
I'm Sarah Geist, and I've been here for 2 years. Pre-class, I went to Columbia. I graduated with Columbia, and our kids have school here, and we are starting up a media thing, so.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
I'm Mike Schneider. I've been here since '09 on City Council, just trying to see if I can help you out and get the video for you. So,
That's fine.
yeah.
Sid Buckman, I own a building uptown. I'm originally from here and just a concerned citizen.
Caleb Hooper. I've been a part-time janitor at Holy for almost 19 years.
All right, thanks for coming, Caleb.
That's all.
I'm Nancy Shively, and Caleb's one of my favorite employees, right, Caleb?
Maybe.
There we go.
Michelle Kendrick, I'm retired, and I'm a member of downtown.
Linda Geist, and I probably lived here longer than most of your parents and grandparents. I am getting ready to retire from the University of Missouri, and I used to own a newspaper here and worked in the newspaper business for a lot of years.
I'm Allie Bennett. I live here in Missouri, in Monroe City, and I have lived here pretty much my whole life.
Great. Thanks, Allie. Thank you, everybody. All right, thanks, everybody. So what we're going to start off tonight talking about the first part of phase 2. There's a lot to do in phase 2. It's the busiest phase of Heart and Soul. We're not going to try to eat all this in one bite here. We're going to do about half of this tonight and let you start digging in on that work, and then I'll do some updating and some other training on the second half of this as we go. But just wanted to kind of orient you a little bit about where we are and what we're doing here. Because first, you want to really, remember, Heart and Soul is all about your community, getting to know itself better, and understanding what you love about your community and what can make it even better, and using those, the research that you do, listening to your friends and neighbors to make better decisions about the future of your town, really based upon what folks here care about. And it sounds kind of elementary, it sounds easy, but getting people to talk about their place and getting people to talk about what they love about their town takes a lot of intention. You have to intentionally go out and gather stories and listen to those stories with intent, and then turn those stories into data that you can then use to make decisions. And that's really the part that we're going to talk about today. So how are we informing our future? I wanted to spend a little bit of time reflecting a little bit on where you're at and where you've come from. On the graphic here, I just threw up a couple milestones. So you've got some of your sub-teams in place, people who are going to do the story listening, people who are going to do the story gathering, the data management, things like that. That's a big deal. You've got your coordinator hired. That's a huge milestone. And having someone on the ground, because, oh dang it, I do that every time I touch this darn screen. I got to remember not to. Because I live in Iowa. I can't be here every day. So having a coordinator on the ground is really an important thing. So that's a big milestone. Y'all organized a parade float. I saw some of the pictures. That was great.
They did a good job.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah, to see everybody kind of active. You've got some little hearts here that you had in your parade float. That was awesome. You're really getting a lot of networks identified on your community network analysis sheet, starting to gather more stories about who lives here and how are they connected to each other, and using that as your roadmap to move forward. So that's really great. You've got a Facebook page created that's active. I love seeing the pictures pop up and the flyers, the announcements about future events coming up. So those are all really big deals that you all ought to be really proud of from your phase 1 work. So on your roadmap here, I think I'm going to use like a red marker here. You're a little understated here. I think you're not really selling the accomplishments here, because from a distance, you can't even see what's big red marker and big marks on this thing. So you've defined your goals. Whoops, I kind of covered up your goals with the TV, but you've got some project goals. We're going to make big red marks on here so you can be real proud of it. Thinking about your geography of the school district as really making sure that the folks who live in the surrounding areas get involved in this as well. You've got a good start on your community network analysis. You've got that, and that's the networks that are going to map out how people here are connected to each other and using those connections to do story gathering and story and data collection. You've organized your Heart and Soul team. You've got those sub-teams are starting to be formed, and we'll do some more training for those folks. You've got your project coordinator. You've linked your work to local government officials. It's nice to have Mike here and some other folks who have already been connected to this work. So that's great. You're developing your core messaging and marketing tools. You've got your Facebook page. You're starting to think about that grocery line checkout speech, like how are you talking to your friends and neighbors about what Heart and Soul is. You're raising public awareness. You've got your Facebook page. You did your parade. People are starting to understand what Heart and Soul is and how they can get involved. And you did your reflect and celebrate. You had a little party last week. I know summer is hard to do trainings like this. It's hard to do little celebrations, but you want to talk a little bit about that, Bridget, like what y'all did last week?
Yep. So we had this up. We went through and we felt pretty good about check marking everything. We talked about some of the gaps that we were seeing that we needed to work on. We definitely celebrated our milestones, acknowledged that. We went over who our core team is, and we just kind of hung out. And we also shared about Heart and Soul with some community members that were there, and maybe we'll get some volunteers for the future. But it was good.
Yeah. So you can see at the end of every phase, we want to make sure that your team is taking time to reflect a little bit, understand where you come from and what you hope to achieve in the future, and reflect on what you did better or what could have gone better in things. So we will kind of keep bringing this roadmap out so we can stay on track and understand how to keep this moving forward in ways that seem right for your community. So today, the primary thing we're going to do is talk about how we gather data, different ways that are going to fit Monroe City. Every town is different. I know it's kind of a cliche to say that, but every town is different on how people connect with each other and how we're going to gather stories. So we're going to kind of dig in and try to localize that as much as possible, make sure that what I'm talking about here fits what you all are going to be able to do here at Monroe City. This is a big old chalkboard that they had in Galesburg, Illinois, when they were gathering data from their community. They took this to community festivals. They asked a different question every time they took it out. This one is, what's some free stuff to do in Galesburg? And people filled the whole thing up. You can be like, what's your favorite place? Who are your favorite people here? What are your favorite activities to do? All those kinds of things help you gather data about what makes your town special. So this is just one example that we'll kind of dig in a little bit more on. Now, in your folders or on the table here, you've got a copy of your workbook, your Phase 2 workbook here. So this just goes right in your binder behind the Phase 1 stuff that you got last time I was here. So you can follow along in today's presentation, basically using that Phase 2 packet. We're going to kind of go through it, not page by page, but a lot of the slides that you see up here, if you're having trouble seeing them, they might be in your book. So kind of try to follow along so you can see. But we're going to try to plan out your story gathering activities. We're going to talk through how do you identify and categorize the data that you're collecting from stories. How do you analyze that data and start turning it into a decision-making matrix? How do you do that? We're going to talk about the importance of not just collecting those stories, not just collecting that data, but you as a team need to share that back out into the community. It doesn't do any good if it just stays at these tables. You've got to make sure that your friends and neighbors are also hearing about this stuff so that they can continue to participate, continue to stay connected to what you're doing. So we'll talk about story sharing, story collection and story sharing, and then we'll think about what the next step is really to use that data as a way to strengthen your community. So how do we turn that data into action? So we will talk about that today, and that's kind of the second part of Phase 2, is how you start to turn that into action. So those are our goals for today. But the main thing that we're going to talk about here in the first part of our presentation is the kinds of data, the kinds of stories that you're going to collect, and how to turn that into data. And the main things that we're going to talk about are thin story gathering methodologies and thick data. So thin data is things like, Nancy already put up some little pieces of paper up on the wall there that was at Swinky Days. Some coloring sheets that kids filled out about things that they love about the community, their favorite places in the community. And you can see that they've got like the swimming pool or church or the parks and those sorts of things. Those kinds of one-word, easy to collect data, that's what we call kind of thin. It's easy to collect. You can get piles and piles and piles of it really easily. You can do it on a chalkboard like you saw there before. You can do it in a survey. You can do it like this with coloring sheets. And it's really a great way to gather a ton of information that you can use to understand the direction that you're going to head. The challenge with that is that you don't have a lot of context around that data sometimes. So if someone says, like a little kid says, I love the park. What does that mean, right? I mean, it's good that you love the park. Do you like hiking at the park? Do you like bird watching at the park? Do you like the playground? Do you like the hiking trail? You know, it's hard. You have to dig deeper. How do you dig deeper? And that's how we turn that thin data into thick data. So we want to, and it's important to have the thin data because it really helps you build up a huge amount that you can use to guide your decisions. But the thick data is what really gives it life, and it helps you make better decisions. So we'll talk about both kinds of data, the thin part that you might collect on postcards, and the thick stuff that you get by doing interviews, or by doing focus groups, or those sorts of things, and you need a mix. So the first thing we're going to do is I've got some examples of things that have happened in other communities. So I'm going to give each table a little pat here. And these are photos of things that other towns have done. And what I'd like you to do is at each table, look through the photos that you have as a group and start to think about, like try to think, what are they doing in these pictures? What kind of data could they be collecting? And try to answer the questions. It's kind of hard to see up here, but I want you to all think about what's happening in each picture. Is this a thin or a thick story gathering opportunity? Are they gathering little chunks of data or are they getting deep? And then the third thing is, does this seem like something that would work in Monroe City? So, what's happening in the photo? Is it thin or thick? And does this seem like something that could happen in Monroe City? And then after you all have a chance to talk about it at your table, we'll kind of have you talk about some of the things that you found in your pictures with the full group. And we can talk through if that would be a good fit here, okay? So let's just take 5 minutes to go through these. You don't have that many at each table. So kind of hold them up and talk about them as a group.
Like basically a one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Somebody said, what is this heart and soul? And they gotta have an answer.
Elevator speech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they talked about that early on. We're taking
Yeah.
the group discussion. It's like a different group. And you talk about the pick and then, I guess then would be
It's short and sweet.
creating a topic for them to talk about it, and each one of them offering something to it.
Right.
This will be a thin
Mm-hmm.
starting point.
That's usually where I just do that. Or just give a little piece of paper.
Had around our town.
I would.
Brenda and I were able to swim at 8.
Now this is that another.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing here is that when somebody asks, well, what is heart and soul? They might ask it to somebody that doesn't know. So how do we get more people to know? I mean, even people in the group really don't know. I don't know all the answers either.
Right. Right.
I've been coming to some of these. It's the more information you get out of it. I posted something on our webpage, about it. Which then people have to sit down and read it. But if I have people out there, the thing that we put on, if somebody got on it and there was a video and they were talking about it, and said it, people would sit and listen.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't necessarily sit and read.
Right. Right.
Kind of like a billboard. Billboard gets too much stuff on it, it's too busy, and they don't read any of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I remember.
When you've got about 3 seconds to get their attention. Yeah.
And that's the same thing here, like hope that you can know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I can find that. I can't get anything to open it.
I can't get any data in here.
So just another minute or two here, folks, and then we'll come back together as a group.
I didn't even see that one.
Yeah. Well, that's Monroe.
Yeah, yeah. So this thing, or maybe
This looks like these kind of took a.
Where is it? Where are you leaving to? There's always one.
Okay, what we'll do now is I'd like to go kind of from table to table and have someone in your group kind of explain to the rest of the group a few of the things, like tell people what's in your picture, and then, or what you think is happening in that picture, and how it might apply to data gathering here in Monroe City. So let's start over here. This is a high achieving table over here, I think. So we're going to start over here.
With those boys, it's got to be high.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
So
please.
use your loud teacher voice.
Okay, so in this picture we see there's a survey, and it could thin or thick, depending on how much time somebody will put into it or where you're at, and what the questions are, of course. It looks like, they immediately shared the stories by hanging them up, and we thought like a fall festival might be a good place. For the schools, but someone that we thought might be a good, yeah, this one could be a good one for students at the school. This we thought maybe is taking place in a brewery. It looks like it's definitely fit, and there's a lot of discussion happening probably, and we have spots in our community to do this, and this might be maybe something that we would invite a specific demographic to possibly. I just put that one out there.
On that one in particular, that's kind of like a storytelling event. So they had people, they had kind of chosen people who had a diverse range of different stories, and they invited them to come and tell their stories at an event, and the people who came were listening. So there was a way for them to really hear, and they kind of picked people who had different experiences and backgrounds, so people could hear different ways of, and then it inspired people to then later on they asked people who wanted to share their stories to share their stories too. So it was a good mix of real thick story gathering and sharing.
We thought this was thin, kind of what we did, what we have going on.
Yep.
I do like to draw a picture or write about it. You can get it to be thicker if you write about it. So we could update. But schools, the library, lots of things. That kind of event. This looks like a storytelling, like maybe individual storytelling. So definitely,
you can see the person in the red shirt there. She's a story gatherer, and they're at a community event, and they gave people an incentive, like a T-shirt or a coupon for a donut or whatever, to sit down with her and gather a story. So they sat down in this pavilion. She gathered stories, gave them their little prize, and then off they went. And again, they were really seeking to get. They went to where people were to gather the stories, not sitting back and waiting for people to come to them. So being very intentional about getting diverse voices.
How are those incentives funded?
Through the Heart and Soul process has funding and money that they've raised locally to be able to do little prizes and stuff. Yeah.
and this looks like a thin story gathering that you could hang up.
It's a big mural.
Big mural.
Yep.
I know Tanya has been trying to find a good place to hang a mural. She said something about she went and looked at some window. She said that one won't work or something, but we have some hopefully window fronts that can be utilized something like this.
Yeah, and this one's basically only thin data because this is Cascade, Iowa, and they hung that up at a football game. And people walked by and they just wrote, "What do you love about town?" And they wrote it on there. And there was nobody there to follow up or ask follow-up questions or anything. They would just say things like, "My teachers." Which teachers? Are you a high school student or an elementary student? Like you didn't know any of that stuff. So it was very, very thin because there was no time to follow up. But a really easy way to get it. They probably got 150, 200 points of data on that thing.
How many obscenities were it?
Pardon?
How many obscenities were it?
Well, I think people behave
Junior
themselves.
high kids.
There were no obscenities, but it was. Some of the data is not super useful. It's like I love Cascade because of my friend Bob. It's like, okay, that's not really useful, but I got them engaged and we got them having fun. So, all right, thank you to this team. Good job. Woo! All right, what inspired the folks here? What did you see at your table?
So kind of similar to the one you had up there.
The chalkboard. Yep.
And it just says what you love about Arlington. And this is a thin collection point.
Yep.
And again, as we already kind of talked about, there seems to be other opportunities like the fall festival or something that Put something up so that as people are walking by, they can contribute to it.
So you can also make it thicker by expanding your audience who you're doing. You see a chalkboard and you think of school or youth or like active people out in the community, but like we have a lot of seniors that live here too, so this is something you can do at senior housing, at the nutrition center, even go out to the nursing home, talk to them and the people visiting them.
And the other thing too about things like that, if you do something like that, or that mural, or even like the children's things, if you have somebody there, so when they put it up, you can ask them a question about it. Like, oh, I see you put the parks on your thing. What do you love about the parks? And they tell you a story about the parks. Then you write that down. Then you've got the picture, and you've got some thicker data about why that's meaningful, why that's important. So you can do both at that if you have the right kind of planning going into it right up front. So yeah, that's good.
Our nursing homes done like interviews, like
Yes.
with people on their birthday or something.
Yep.
What did you learn, or you know, what's your favorite thing about Monroe, or you know, whatever. If they've interviewed them, and made videos for them, so
Yep.
you know those go really well. They put your longest, so they know which one.
They know what's going on. Yep. What's next,
So
Tim?
this next one has to do with, they did it in two parts and asked a couple questions on the card. On the front of the card that says, what do you love about the town? What would you leave? And Lindsay brought up that she had just done some interviewing at the factory.
Yeah, I said that I
Oh,
learned
yeah.
a lesson with how you phrase things.
Yeah.
I asked what they didn't like about Monroe, and they really let me know, and so I was like, oh, learning experience, okay, I'm not even going to ask that question like that at all.
Well, and it's a tough lesson to learn sometimes. But the way that a lot of times we always try to start from someplace positive. In Heart and Soul, this is an asset-based process. So we always start with what do you love?
Yes.
And then I
did,
usually, but then usually instead of saying, what don't you like, I usually say, what would make it even better? It's just, it kind of twists it into something that's a little bit more positive. You might get similar things, but it's less of a complaint session, if you say that. It's like, okay, we got to build on what we like.
You'll have a good idea for how this,
Ask them how they would solve a problem.
Yes.
That's right.
Right, so then
Positive.
That's
you get them
right.
thinking about like
That's right.
solutions
Yes.
and bringing these solutions instead of bringing in problems.
Right, and that's a much more positive way of kind of thinking about the
I
future.
learned the hard
So,
way for everybody in here.
yeah, that's exactly. We're going to talk a little bit when we talk about gathering thick data. We're going to talk a lot about how do you interview someone. What does that process look like in order to get the right kind of data? So that's good. Yep. And those cards that you've got there, Kim, on that one, those are actually coasters at the local brewery. Like, so they gave everybody, when they got a drink, they got a coaster, and on that coaster, then they give them a pen, and they could flip it over, and they could write on there what their things were, and then they take those coasters and put them on a bulletin board. So that was kind of a creative way to reach people in a different location.
Well, they didn't put that one. We're there.
We're in a certain demographic after a certain
Was there anything
hour.
else that you want to lift up, or?
We kind of
Oh,
we were running out of time,
Okay.
but there was a quick one where there's a one-on-one with a couple people, and it looks like they're using a recording device, so that's definitely going to be a thicker.
yeah, this one is thick, and you can see that it's a young person interviewing a senior citizen. And that's also a really, that could be a very powerful way to gather stories, because a lot of times when youth are talking to senior citizens, it's a little more disarming. Like, it's not like another adult talking to another adult. Sometimes people are a little more standoffish, but, oh, this is like a school project, or it's just a little more interesting. And the kids have a natural curiosity when they're asking questions that helps senior citizens open up. And not only are you gathering data from that senior citizen, that student is learning something, right? They're learning about the history of their community. They're learning about how you can invest in its future, and they might also then be inspired to tell their story at some point. So those intergenerational opportunities can be really important. So, is that it?
Yeah, then we didn't talk too much about this, but it seems similar.
Oh.
Maybe it has the picture, maybe with the pictures or something.
Yeah, it's like pictures on downtown storefront windows, or either images of what people love, or sometimes you can put up posters and things and use like those markers you can draw on glass. You can put up a poster and then people can actually write on the glass about what people love and stuff. So.
This would be a good one to
Pardon?
Is it limited to downtown or is all of Monroe cities?
Oh, all of
All
Monroe
of Monroe
City.
City.
Yeah, and the geography is basically the school district, so
Okay.
there's also rural parts that are included.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's what about making that would be one that would be like a good one for a teacher that's teaching like persuasive writing. And
Oh,
then you make
sure.
it into
Yep.
a classroom competition, and then the winner gets, some big prize. So then
Yep.
they're gonna write, what the best thing is or most persuasive paper.
And it's a great way to share that data. You collected that story from somebody, now you're sharing it out, and everybody who walks or drives by can see it. So it's a nice double benefit. So thank you, everybody. Nice job. Woo! All right, what you guys have on your
Here's for
table?
Lindsay.
Well,
What
that's
stood
where
out?
it's thick or thin. This is basically a thin. What do you love about our town? I guess it could be a thick because I'm assuming there's more than one of these sheets, and they probably fill out several of them.
But it's similar to the.
Similar to
Yeah.
the.
Yep.
So this is a great way to get the youth involved.
Yep.
Same way with this one.
Make sure you hold it up so everybody can see it too.
Same way with this one. I can't read Spanish, so I don't know what the question was. But
Okay. Oh,
but
yeah,
I
but-
imagine it was a question that and there were several answers around on the sheet.
But that's the important thing too. That one was in Spanish. So they took the opportunity to make it bilingual because they knew that the audience they were meeting was multilingual. So that's the important part of that one, is you can do it that way too. Yep.
That would be an easy one to do. This another looks like youth group type of thing. There's different tables.
Yep.
And so they were gathering at the thick. They were gathering information from hopefully each one of those kids. And get information, which we could do the same thing with adults.
And what's sitting on the table in front of each of the kids there?
Oh, food.
Pizza, right there. So that's an
That's
example.
easy.
That was in Mendota, Illinois, and they had a pizza party at the YMCA. The fellow on the left-hand side who works at the Y, so they had a pizza party at the Y, and they invited the kids to come. And while they were eating pizza, they gathered stories about what they loved about Mendota and what would make it even better. And they treated it like a focus group where they asked every kid the same question and wrote down those answers and were able to follow up with probing questions and things like that. So focus groups are really important.
Good thing about food, it works for adults too.
It works for adults too. Yep.
And this looks like a one-on-one.
Yep.
And I'm assuming one or the other will give the credit to the young lady that hopefully there was a question about. I'm imagining there's a question about what is community heart and soul.
Yep.
And hopefully she had the right answer, so that once she got done, you had two people that were
right.
sharing information.
Well, and the other important thing that's a little bit hard to see in that picture is there's a video camera set up.
Yes.
And they're recording it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
No, I didn't notice
because when you're doing interviews, you're not going to want to record every single interview that you do, but there are going to be some interviews that like this is going to be a good one, like this person is really well spoken, and they've got a lot of good ideas. Let's try to get this on camera because we all know that sharing video is a really good way to get the word out about your project. It's a good way to share data. Sharing this data out is a really important part. We're not just collecting it, we need other people to listen to it, and video is a really important way to do that. So that's why they were videotaping that particular interview.
Yeah, it's
was
kind
to
of
stitch it together with other interviews, put it on social media, put it on their website.
We could do that with Bridget and Allie.
Just get them to talk to each other, I mean, or? Yeah. Woo. All right, well, thanks, guys. Thanks, John. Woo. All right, what'd you all learn over here? What'd you have?
It appears that this group is doing a focus group. They do have a microphone that they're passing around so everyone can hear well. It's a bigger group.
Yeah.
It looks like it was like a dinner event, but maybe they stayed after or it was during it and they all gathered during it. So that was probably thick if they gave everyone ample time to share a story on the mic.
And I've got copies of these. They'll be in your Google Drive, like the actual big, so you can all see them and stuff. But what's hard to see is the people in the middle are talking with the microphone. The people around the outside are the ones taking notes. Can you see that? So this is called like a story circle. So the people in the middle are telling stories, and the people on the outside are just listening with intent. Like they're not telling their story; they're just taking notes. So it's kind of a nice way to do something. So you aren't worried about the people in the middle trying to take notes at the same time.
How do you pick who's where, or did they switch
Then
later?
they'll switch.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. This is a thin activity. It looks like you spin the wheel and then there's questions like a bright idea about your town, hidden gems about your town, what hometown pride information, and then they just write it down on a sticky and turn it in for a prize.
Well, it's a fun way to get people to talk about their town instead of just saying, what do you love? And people have that blank stare. You've probably experienced that already. This one prompts them. So you spin the wheel and it lands on, oh, your favorite place, or oh, your favorite restaurant, or whatever. Then it prompts them to do it instead of them having to think about it off the top of their head. Yep.
I've got a wheel that we can do that with, Alex.
You do?
On you.
See, there you go.
He's a hidden gem.
We love this one. It looks like it's one-on-ones with the football team. And the Heart and Soul team broke up into different tables and took on one or two kids, maybe 3 kids apiece, and took their stories down.
What's really fun about this one, it was like during homecoming, it was like a football team alumni. Like the players from previous years came back to meet the current players, and during that event, they trained the kids to interview the former players and ask them, what did Monroe City used to be like when you played football here? So, what did the football team used to look like? Well, we won the championship in 1974. So they were able to gather stories in the midst of the celebration of their heritage. They also gathered data about what they loved about their town. So very cool. Yeah.
This gentleman is sharing a story. So that's it.
Yeah. Yep. So this was a storytelling event. He was pre-selected to tell his story at this heritage festival that they were having in their town, and it was a way to encourage people to hear about the past of their town, but also then share their own story.
We were a little undecided on this one. We decided since she's so little, it's probably just a little photo op opportunity. Maybe ask her a question, jot down the answer, or maybe just grab her photo and share the preciousness.
It's just a way to get people engaged. Like you have a little photo booth, you get people to stop by your booth, and in the meantime, either you get data from their parents, or you have them fill out a little postcard and hang it on a clothesline or something like that. But it's just a way to get people engaged. Yep. So nice. And again, I'll upload a PDF with all of these in it up to your Google Drive. So if you need inspiration or need to think a little bit more about these story gathering methods, you can really think about what feels right for Monroe City, what are some opportunities, but kind of get your juices flowing a little bit about the different ways you can start to gather stories. So one of the most powerful ways to gather thick data is through interviews. And not only is it a good way to get really thick data, it's a way to be really intentional about it, because using your community network analysis, you're going to really think about who lives here and who do we need to hear from. And are we getting data from a diverse range of different types of people? Interviews are the best way to target individuals. Like, we need a newcomer. We need a long-term resident. We need someone who's younger. We need a blue-collar worker. We need you need all those different categories. And interviews are good ways to target those specific kinds of people. But doing interviews is a good way to really lift up those voices, especially if you can videotape them. So what I thought I would do right now is kind of model what those interviews look like and show you how to conduct those interviews kind of quickly, but how to get the right kind of data out of those interviews. It's not just asking random questions. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to interview one of you. So who would like to, okay, Sarah. Sarah, right?
Sarah.
All right, come on up, Sarah.
Woo! Oh, do I have your report? Is this going online?
Oh, yeah.
It's not me this time. Be me next time.
Yeah.
Let somebody else take the phone.
Oh, this is going to be a branded opportunity. I love it. All right. Yes. All right. So, hi, Sarah. So my name's Jason, and I'm with the Community Heart Soul Project, and what we're doing is we're talking to Monroe City residents to ask them what they love about Monroe City, what might make it better. We're going to use all those stories and all that data that we collect to help people make better decisions about the future of this community based upon what they really care about. So thank you so much for helping with this. I promise not to take too much time. I am going to record this just so I don't have to take notes during my interview, but I just want to make sure I capture all of your ideas. So do you mind if I record this? Just audio. Okay, thank you. I'm not really doing that. I just.
If you want us to use the auditor now, that's great.
Yeah, it's great. So Sarah, tell me a little bit about, so how long have you lived in Monroe City?
See, I grew up here and then I moved away in 2004 and I moved back in 2000.
Okay, so why did you move back in 2018? What was?
We actually were not married. We chose to move to Monroe because my great uncle died and we had an opportunity to buy the house. We were actually looking to move to Centralia or Palmyra, but so it was just kind of time.
Okay, did you still have family and things in the area? Is that one of the reasons why?
Yeah, my whole family's here, but I
Okay.
did not want to live here. I was dead set on not coming back here, and then I did.
Why didn't you want to move back here?
Because I wanted more opportunities for my kids than what I felt like we got in high school. I wanted different from what I had. Which we moved back and I was surprised how different it was. She had a very different experience and a lot more opportunities at the school. Absolutely most decisions we made, even if we were not intentionally making that decision. But yeah, it turned out really good.
Well, tell me a little bit. I'm really curious about what do those opportunities like. What made those opportunities look different than what you had? Like what?
Education has definitely expanded. We had some great teachers, but it was limited to dual credit was limited to the teachers that were certified to teach dual credit. So we had Ms. Quinn and Ms. Seward. You know, you could go in with like 6 credit hours. Now they have expanded that to online. So now they can graduate almost with a associate's degree almost out of high school.
Also, it's those additional, like the extra, like the advanced learning opportunities and getting advanced credit and stuff. That was one of the things that was really different between when you were a kid and now.
Yes. Okay. And I think I just didn't like living there. It was different. I don't know. And then when I came back, then we really, I got to see it through an adult. So I was like, we're never getting out of here. As a kid, there's nothing to do. And then like, you grow up and you're like, wow, this community is like actually special.
What makes it special?
The people. So there is definitely a sense of community, especially like within the Catholic community, that you do not find anywhere else. So if a relative dies, 100% you are going to need a second bridge because the entire community is dropping pastoral involved.
Okay.
They all show up, they support each other. There's a lot of volunteer activities going on here. So
you really see that differently as an adult, don't you? You see that differently as
yes,
when
and
you're a kid. Yeah.
very involved with the youth, and the youth are really supported here.
Okay.
And, it's a community we are going to try to strengthen that. I don't think it's going to but
well, that's why you're here.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I don't want to put you through the ringer anymore, but thank you. Big round of applause. All right. So, what kinds of things did you observe me doing as the interviewer? What did I do?
Rolled off of what she said, like last, like kind of framed your questions from maybe her last statement.
Okay, reframed it sometimes, like made sure I kind of repeated what she said to make sure I understood it. So that means I have to be a good listener, right? I got to listen to what people are saying so I can repeat it back.
And ask good questions.
Ask like open-ended questions, right?
Yeah.
Not like yes or no questions.
Yeah.
Things that they have to like answer long answers. Okay. What else did you notice?
You kept it positive, you know what I mean? Like even with, okay, you know, you took what, so then why did, you know what I mean? You didn't, you kept all the questions with a positive spin.
Try to reframe it, right? Okay.
No negative.
Stance.
I'm sorry?
Positive stance.
Yep, just making sure it was like from a position of positivity, right?
Yeah, it was kind of like the improv, they say yes and.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And you kind of just go with it, you just went with what she said.
Yeah, and again, that means you have to be a good listener, right? You got to make sure you're following up with intent to what they were actually talking about, right?
Is that a collection night out there? Like you can do like an improv night with the
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like the
that'd be super fun.
was it dark?
Our
Who
preschool
monitors it
teachers
anyway?
improv to our kids.
See? But it's a skill though, right? I mean, you have to be a good listener. You have to really understand how to think on your feet. So that's great. Yeah, it's a good observation. Oh, direct eye contact. Yep. I also, like right at the beginning, I tried to set it up, right? Like why we were talking about this and how this information was going to be used. You want to make the person comfortable to know like what direction it's headed. One of the things that, like Sarah, like when I asked her what she liked about it, like the people. It's a very common response. What did I say? What about the people? What about the people makes them special, right? You can't just like sit on that piece of information like, oh, the people.
Their kindness.
Yeah, and she had lots of great stories about kindness, right? She really talked about, oh, they bring the food over when folks are sick, and they come out and support each other, and they support our youth. Like those are all really interesting, like pieces of data that go way beyond just the people. But if I hadn't asked that follow-up question, it just kind of would have ended right there. So you kind of have to be, and it's kind of that improv thing really, like how do you keep this going? How do you keep digging for that information? So the art of doing a good interview is something that you will get really good at. Like it's something that takes practice, and sometimes there's role playing and modeling. If folks are uncomfortable doing this, you kind of interview each other first before you go out and do it live with residents and things like that. So interviewing is by far the most meaningful thing you're going to do, and I know Lindsay and Bridget, you already went out and kind of did a little bit of this with your, like as far as talking to people, and I know it's a little bit scary. This is by far, like if inertia is like, how do you get a very heavy object to start moving? Interviewing is one of those things that I always have trouble getting my communities to do. It's like, okay guys, how many interviews do you want to do? Let's do 35 interviews or whatever they decide. How many have you done? Well, oh my gosh, just do it. But once you do it, once you do a couple of them, you're going to be like, well, that was really fun. Like I learned a lot. I've known that guy my whole life, and now I learned all this stuff that I didn't know about them before. So it's really a great way to get this going. So, those flashcards, Sarah?
For the senior citizens in the crowd.
I was just asking the former journalist if she knew
Well,
how to
I
interview
just
people.
was taking notes. I just asked her to come into our 8th grade class. We have a class, and I want her to come in and teach our kids how to do this, how to correctly interview, take down the notes, like do all of this, because that's what she's good at. So I just asked her to come into our classrooms.
You do have an expert here. That's good.
Yeah.
I do have, like, as part of the follow-up to this session, I have what we call a focused-in training. Like if you've got people who want to do interviews, I've got a focused-in training for people to learn how to do interviews too. And you've got an expert here, of course, but not every team does. So I do have an online training that I can do. If there's a subgroup of you that want to learn how to do this, I can help with that too. And a lot of it's just, you just got to practice and do it a couple times. Make a few mistakes and you'll get a lot better at it as it goes. But this is probably the most powerful tool you have to get really good, thick data.
So can I interview you?
Me?
Yeah.
What do you want to know about me?
Huh? I just want to interview you. Different.
Maybe later. How about that?
Okay.
We got some other ground to cover. I'm the least important part of this whole process here.
We can make it interesting.
The least interesting anyway. All right, the next thing we're going to talk a little bit about is there's all these different things you can do. You've got all these, you can do thick data and thin data and all this kind of stuff, but you've got to have a strategy. You've got to be, you don't have unlimited amounts of time. You don't have unlimited resources for doing this work. So how are you going to focus in and prioritize how you're going to gather stories, who you're going to get them from, and how you're going to collect them? So in your guide, in your book, there's a section about your story gathering strategy. Let's see, it's on page. Sorry, no, I'm just. It's on page 19 in your book. It's about your story gathering strategy. And what you're it looks like this. And you're going to need to have, and this is probably going to be like if you have a sub-team that's devoted to story gathering, those folks are going to take a look at your community network analysis see kind of who lives here, especially who are the missing voices in town, who are the people that you don't typically hear from, who's going to be harder to get stories or information from them, and you're going to have to develop a strategy for getting data, for getting stories from those folks. So you can kind of see it walks you through all of the things that you need to do. You think about who's your target group. Who's that group there? It might be youth, it might be senior citizens, it might be shift workers, it might be whoever you think is a missing voice, low-income folks, the Latino community, those sorts of groups that you really need to target. What is going to be the story gathering method? Now that might be driven by your community network analysis, because on your CNA, one of the things that it asks you is, like, where do we see those folks and how can we connect with them? It might be at an event, it might be through electronic surveys, it might be on social media, it might be only one-on-one interviews. So how are we going to, what's going to be the most effective method for reaching those folks? Is that method going to provide thin or thick data? If it's interviews or something like that, then it's going to be thick. If it's some sort of like a paper survey, it's probably going to be thin. The next question there is unique framing questions. Because for each one of those groups, there might be something special that you want to ask them that's going to help you dig deeper into the profile. Like if they're a missing voice, there's probably a reason why they are a missing voice. And is there a question that you might be able to ask them that would help you dig deeper? A good example of a framing question is if you are doing a focus group with teenagers at the high school, you might ask them things like, what would Monroe City need to look like for you to move back here as an adult? So that's something you would ask young kids, like what would that look like? But if you were doing this with a group of senior citizens, you obviously wouldn't ask them that question, right? They already live here as adults. So you have to think about, is there something I need to know? If your target group is oh gosh, stop touching this thing. If your target group is newcomers to town, the unique framing question might be, what brought you to Monroe City? Or those sorts of things. Do you have family ties here? Or what brought you here? That would be a unique framing question that's only for that group. So as you're thinking about setting up your strategy, you really want to think about what's going to make that experience more meaningful for both you and the folks that you're talking to. And when we say unique framing questions, that's not just things that you're going to be doing in an interview. It might also be if you have a written survey or a question on a poster or something like that. You can put unique framing questions on those things too. There's a column here that says outputs. And when I say outputs, that means what's the result of the data collection? Is it survey responses? Is it an audio transcript? Is it video? Is it like an audio transcript that's like produced in a written form? Like how are we going to see the data so that it can be analyzed? And the goal might be, how many responses do we want? Like if we're sending out an electronic survey, how many responses should we, like given our population and who we're targeting, how many do we want to get back? Because it might be interviews. If you're doing interviews, how many interviews do we want to do? Just so you know when you're done. Because I get that question a lot, like, how do we know when we're done? Well, did you set your goals? Like once your goal is reached, move on to your next thing. So there is an electronic version of this in your master spreadsheet on your Google Drive where you'll be keeping track of this and you'll be targeting out your groups and then filling this out to give your story gathering team some direction on how they're going to gather those stories. And you're going to want to make sure that it's balanced between thin or thick data and then you're reaching all of your target groups, especially if they are missing voices type people.
Well, I might have missed it. Who enters the information, or coordinator, or whoever happens to have access to it?
Yeah, and anybody, like sometimes if you've got a story gathering subcommittee, there might be a leader for that subcommittee. They could do that. It could be the coordinator. That's kind of up to you. But usually these things that are in the Google Drive, you have multiple people who are accessing them, which is fine. Yeah. Any thoughts or questions about this? This is kind of a new concept maybe for some of you all.
So where's the ultimate storage for the repository for where these stories go?
Yeah, so there's in this there's a large spreadsheet There's a Google Drive that this team has, and there's a large spreadsheet on there, and there's a data entry sheet on that spreadsheet that we'll talk about in a little bit. I'm going to talk to you about, once you get the story, how do you turn that into data? And then there's a spreadsheet that we put that onto right in your master spreadsheet. And we'll talk about that next. Yep. Good question, though. Any other thoughts on this before we turn the page here? So now that we've kind of described how you're going to lay out your strategy, what goes into your strategy, what that looks like. Once you start gathering stories, we want to think a little bit about how do you, as we turn that into data, how are we sure that we're being objective? That as we listen to a story, that we're not putting our own biases into it, because you're going to be listening to people's stories. And it's easy for us to lay onto our own biases, our own opinions, onto the top of what people are saying. So we want to talk a little bit about that, just so you're aware of it, because if you start thinking about it, it's less likely that you will do it yourself. Because everybody has a little different perspective on how they see things. So I don't know how well you can see this image here, but when you look at this image, what do you see?
Old guy with a beard.
An old man with a beard, kind of got a headdress of leaves. I see Nancy.
I can't find it.
Nancy's looking at it real. She knows there's a trick here somewhere. Like there's something going on. Is there any other way to see this picture? I think there's a copy of this in your book too. I think.
Somebody that's holy.
Oh, that's holy. Yeah. You see it now? So when I flip it over, I don't think did anybody see this? There's a couple embracing in the middle of it. You can see there's the gentleman, there's the lady, there's the arms. Coming around the edge, they're kind of wearing old-fashioned cloaks and hats and things. Can you see it? That's like the man's face, that's the woman's face.
Oh, there it is.
So trying to dig deeper and trying to make sure that we're not locked into a certain viewpoint on something and only seeing something from one perspective. Even something like this. When you zoom in on this, it's hard to read, but what is this? What does this look like? It's someone's face, but it's like in a newspaper, right? Now, newspapers are printed out things that have the news in them. I don't know if you guys know what those are. Okay, yeah, okay. But the way newspapers used to be printed, it was just these little dots that were bigger or smaller that, when seen together, created an image, but you had to be far away from it to really see what it was. When you get too close to it, it just looks like a blob. So that's kind of one of the challenges that you're going to be facing. If you, as residents of Monroe City, are too close to the issues that you're talking about, it might twist what you're listening to. If you're dead set on what your position is on some volatile local issue and you're talking to someone about it, can you set that aside and see it from a further distance and be more objective about it? Just listen and not try to impose. Because that's one of the things we talk about a lot in our interview training, is when you ask questions, you can't ask questions like that are leading people to the conclusion that you think you want them to say. Like, don't you think the park would be better if it had a better pool? That's not really a question you want them to answer. That's a question that you want them to answer the way you want it to be said. So you've really got to be careful to stay a further distance away from these issues and not let your own biases get in the way. So this is an example, and I think this is in your books too, I believe. This is an example of the kinds of stories that you might hear. So this is a real piece of data, a real story that someone collected. I love to go to the old movie theater in our town. I love the way that the seats feel, how you sink in the chairs and go back in time. The old smell reminds me of movies gone by, popcorn smell that never goes away. I guess they say your sense of smell is connected to the part of your brain that deals with memories. I remember going to the movies with my dad when I was little. I love that I could take my kids to the same movie theater. So what your challenge is now going to be is you're going to have to interpret that story and turn that into data. And when someone listened to this, one person thought this. This is their summary of it when they saw that story. She appreciates her town's movie theater because she can take her kids to the same theater that she went to with her dad when she was little. Okay? A different person listened to this, and this is what listener B said. She appreciates her town's movie theater because it is a good, wholesome place to provide entertainment for her kids. Which one of these is a more accurate reflection of what the person actually said?
B.
A, right? Like, that's what she actually said. This whole, in listener B, it's a wholesome place to provide entertainment. That wasn't actually in the story. Someone layered that on top of it, and that was their interpretation. They skipped over and interpreted it and put a meaning in it that wasn't actually there. So you have to be really careful when you're listening stories, not to let this kind of coloration come into it. All right, we're going to do a couple more activities here, just to help you understand a little bit what this data looks like. Because as you take these stories, you're going to be taking transcripts of stories, just like the one we just saw, and you're going to have to deconstruct it into sets of data that we can analyze. Okay? So I've got two different activities here. Oops. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to have, let's see, we're going to have these two tables come together. And here, I'll explain this one first. You two tables are going to come together, and you're going to do this activity. I've got a story here, and I'm going to give you some markers. And you're going to take this story, and at the bottom you can see I need you to identify the parts of this story, because the three sets of data that we're going to need to collect are what matters most, like what does this person really care about in their community. And when you find those in the story, you're going to mark them with a green marker. The other thing is the hopes and concerns about that this person is saying about their community. That will be marked with a red marker. And ideas for the future, like what kinds of things would help strengthen our community. All three of those things are in the story, and I need you to, and I've got, actually, you guys can just stay there. I've got markers that you can use. But I need you to identify the words in here that are green, red, or blue, all right? I think I've got enough. One, two, three. Well, Finale's hitting my markers. She read my mind. So you all kind of work on it at your table, and you all work at it here. All right. So I'm going to need you all to come to one table, though, because they are looking at a story, and they're deconstructing it into what matter, like the ideas, like what matters most to the residents. They're making a pile, kind of information about what their hopes and concerns are, and they're making a list of the ideas to improve the future of the town. I've got a stack here. These are all ideas of things that people love about. This is real data from a town, Heart and Soul town. What I need you to do is to look through all of these ideas and sort it into the themes. So this is data. Like, they collected this from hundreds of people. Said, what do I love about my town? And it's all different ideas. And each one of these pieces of paper has an idea. Start to sort it into themes, like piles. So I'm going to put it over here. You guys got a big theme spot here. So everybody, and just take a lot of collaboration. You're going to have to look at these things and read some of them together and figure out what the themes are going to be. You're going to see some real interesting themes kind of emerge. So you have to start reading a couple out loud, see what it sounds like. Sort them into themes. So thinking about what matters most to people, what do they really love about their town, what they're concerned about, that's the stuff that goes in red. And then when I say ideas for action, it's actual things that you can measure. Like something, not just like, oh, it'd be nice if things were cleaner. That's kind of a hope, right? But organize a cleanup day is an action. Okay, so think about that because there's a difference between the blue and the red. Make sure it's something they could actually do.
What about people, places?
Then I want you to all compare your notes with each other and see if you were all identified the same things as green, red, and blue. Well, no, that's right. I mean, this takes a little bit of practice.
Economic.
What matters most, hopes and concerns, and then real ideas for the future of the town.
People, places, economic opportunity, or opportunities.
You're seeing some themes kind of emerge.
Civic,
Okay. Those are all community. People are like,
or so maybe like the, goes up to class in the water. I don't know.
Oh, I've got a whole bunch. I just didn't know how deep I'd have to dig this. I've seen some things emerge.
I'll get that.
That would be like access to these things, here's some like scenic beauty. Like a layout of the town. Amenities, music, art, music, culture.
You really understand what matters. What matters. That means hard, that's pretty cool. Gotta do the same thing.
Yeah. So access to.
For the green, for the. Kind of same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Part one.
Yeah.
Hope, concern.
Did you guys come up with some common threads here? Any disagreements?
Not really disagreement. I think we're pretty much on the same page.
Okay.
I don't know about on the hope and concern. That was hard, but you could do different parts of it.
Sure.
I did for actually for me, the whole bottom section for me.
There's a loan program, right? Yep, those are things you could actually measure if it got done, right?
Yeah.
Clean up Main Street to make it look nicer. Yep.
That loan thing, have you ever heard of any of these Main Street programs do anything upstairs? I remember I approached one of the banks 2 or 3 years ago. Surely there's some kind of grant that would flow along through a local bank and do something with, create apartments.
Yeah,
Complaining that it was not much housing.
Right.
But then the bank jumped in and be part of it.
Right. I don't know Missouri well enough. Like in Iowa, the Economic Development Authority in Iowa has some second-story housing programs where they incentivize second-story housing, but it's like economic development incentives, like tax credits and things like that from the state. to do it. I don't know of any towns that do it. I know towns that have facade grants and that kind of stuff, but second-story housing is a lot more expensive.
Right, so that's what I was thinking, at least on the loan part, like
Yeah.
low interest, low yield.
And again, I've never heard any towns that have done it. It's more like a state or a regional
Well,
thing.
that's
I've
what I
seen.
mean.
Yeah,
That would be
there might be.
federal or-
There might be. Yeah, I don't know. In Missouri, every state's a little bit different.
You'd think the banks would know about it.
You would think. Well, you never know. Depends how entrepreneurial they are. Yeah.
Right,
If they're not out there looking for
But
it.
like in our town, we have lot here.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the Economic Development Authority in Des Moines, in Iowa, is a really good resource for this stuff. They've got a rural development office at the Economic Development Authority that focuses on rural economic development. So maybe Missouri has something like that. I don't know.
I don't know. Might.
Yeah. I like it. How's it going over here, Joe? Kind of find some commonality here. Okay. I'm gonna go see how they're doing, and then you all are gonna go over there, and we're gonna have them tell us how they did. So how are y'all doing?
We're doing good.
Okay. You ready for those folks to come over here and see what you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
That whole.
All right. Okay.
I wish it felt
So why don't you folks all come over here? Why don't you folks all come over here and see what they were doing, and they're going to explain to you a little bit about what they were up to. So the little sheets of paper that they are working with here, all these sheets of paper were the, well, don't take them off. Here, show them what you're doing. So they had a story over there that they were kind of deconstructing. They had what people love about the community, what they're looking for, and all you had. So all they had was the green stuff here. Okay, so they had, so people had already taken those stories, they deconstructed it, and they had all the data on their table here from the green, like what people love about their community. So tell them a little bit about what you had to do here. What did the data look like, and how did you sort it out?
Jackson?
He's eating.
Oh, sorry.
We definitely took the opinions of everybody. We used everybody's opinions and kind of talked it out. There were a lot of certain ones that were kind of hard to place, so we just talked about it. Kind of like a Socratic seminar, putting the puzzle pieces together.
What were the big themes you came up with?
We had cultural diversity, accessibility, nature, city events, people, and sense of community.
Did some of the things seem like, did you have great big piles, and at some point you had to decide maybe there should be 2 piles?
Yeah.
Or maybe 2 piles should be 1?
We had one that was places that most of them went with accessibility.
Okay. Condensed it down into 1?
And we know there was some overlap. And I mean, well, this could go in a couple, 2 or 3 different piles because
Yeah.
the longer ones. There's a lot of.
What's the biggest pile?
I think the
Sense of community? Because sometimes, like, sense of community, that can mean a lot of different things. Like, the people here are nice. And, oh, the people, it's safe or
We got
whatever.
people with their own.
The people that have their own one, okay.
Yes, they have
We
their own.
have places that we can look at
Yeah.
So, because a lot of times when you're analyzing the data like this, you start to see different themes emerge. And if the tile is really big, that can either mean that that's one of the things that people mention the most, so it's one of the most important things. So you can physically look at the tiles and see how big or small they are to understand the importance of that in your community. Sometimes, however, if you have a great big pile, sometimes you have to dig it a little bit deeper because maybe there's more than one story in there.
Yeah.
Maybe we made the pile too big. Are there different things? So it really takes, and doing this as a group is really important so there's not one person's kind of bias on things, because were there any disagreements about where things could go in your group? Or is everybody pretty much on the same page? Okay. people.
Yeah, we did. Oh, we also, I heard, like, yay, kids out there, because that was the one that there were layers. Yeah.
Because there's overlap, yeah.
And there's gonna be overlap sometimes, but it's really important that you do this kind of data sorting kind of as a group, so that people hear other people's perspectives. It's also good that a group of people sees the full range of different responses to really understand deeply what does this community care about. And really, and the more something gets mentioned, the more your team kind of knows how important it is. So it's just as good activity to do as a group and really understand, because what you're going to do then eventually is this is the stuff that people in your community care about. You're going to use these eventually to create what we call your heart and soul statements, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So, okay, now the whole group is going to go over to that table, and we're going to look at how they analyze the different stories. So, whose is this here? Is this Michelle or Linda? Do you want to explain a little bit, Linda, about what you did there on yours? So kind of hold it up a little bit and show folks what it looks like. No? You are now.
I wish our downtown was better. I put that as a hope and concern.
Show them the whole thing first. Hold it up so they can see. So you can see this is a big story, like a transcript from someone's interview. And this team had to decide the stuff in green is what matters most. So that's what you were dealing with over here. The stuff in red is a hope or concern for the future. And the things in blue are ideas for action, things that they'd like to see happen in the community. So this team had to analyze that.
And I think everybody probably had a little bit of variance because we were pretty close. What matters, everything matters. What are hopes and concerns, okay? But what are ideas for actions? The concerns could be ideas for actions, or they could just be concerns that we can't do anything about. So just says, I wish our downtown was better. We are such a friendly community. It's fun when I bump into my neighbors at the post office or grocery store. My mother grew up here, but she said it was like that downtown. I would love that, but downtown is a ghost town now. So they could be a hope and concern, or it could be an idea for action. Stores started going out of business. Again, it could be an idea for action. How do you help those stores? Kids started vandalizing the buildings. It just doesn't feel good to be there anymore. That's a hope and concern.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess if you're a grumpy old parent, it could also be an idea for action. I wish it was more like our old neighborhoods, but with great places to shop and eat with friends, walk our dogs, and bump into neighbors. It's an idea for action to me because I heard Sarah talking about a dog park all the time. I heard about a loan program for new businesses that helped other towns revitalize their downtowns. Could we do something like that? So you're seeing this person come up with some ideas for actions. We could clean up Main Street to make it look nicer for new businesses and the people who live here. Again, it's a hope and concern, but it's an idea to make somebody take action.
Yep.
So would you say, like, I wish it felt more like our neighborhoods, but with great places to shop and eat. Is that a hope and concern, or is that an idea for action?
That's a hope. That's a concern, because they're not proposing a solution.
Okay.
Right? Okay. They're just saying, oh, I wish we had more restaurants. Oh,
okay.
I mean, everybody can hope for that, right?
Yeah.
But it would be like, our town should have an entrepreneur incubator that provides a little seed funding for people who want to start a restaurant. That's an idea for action.
Okay.
Okay? So you have to be very careful which category you put things into.
Right.
Because when we get to phase 3,
it's very doable.
Because you're collecting all the data at once, right?
Yeah.
When you're interviewing someone, you're not saying, I'm only collecting phase 2 or what matters most. I'll come back and talk to you in a month about, no, you got that person. You got to ask them all the questions. So it all comes out in a story like this. It's up to your data team then to separate it out, because right now in phase 2, you're going to use the green. What do people love about their community? That's what we need now. In phase 3, you need the ideas for action, because that's when people are going to say, here's what we love. What are we going to do? And it has to be real ideas, not just like improve our town. Like that's not an idea, that's not an action, right? That's a hope. That's a hope for the future. So it has to be, how are we going to concern? So the only things on your sheets that should be blue are things that you could measure. Like I could measure whether or not that got done. Did we do that? So even, Linda, when you were saying things like, oh, like we want to improve the town or like a dog park or whatever, that's a good idea, but it's not in your sheet, right? So that would be something red. And if that person had said, like a dog park, suddenly that becomes an idea for action in blue. But until they say it, it stays a hope or a concern, right?
What's the thing you like about your town? What's that considered? That's not
What matters
That's
most.
what matters most. Yeah, there's 3 categories.
So if I said, you said, what do you like about your town? I said, I like people's dogs. Okay, that's what I like.
Yes.
The dogs, not the
Yep.
people.
That's fine.
That's
What matters.
Okay, yes, that's what matters to me.
Yes.
But then if I said, I wish we had a dog park, that's a concern. But then if I said, we should turn South Lake into an off-leash dog park.
Sure.
Or
We shouldn't have got her started on the dog.
I've already talked to the mayor, he's not a dog person. But the suggestion of we should make this
Right.
a one-way dog run, off leash.
That's an idea.
Then that's,
Right.
yeah.
See, and the hard part as an interviewer is like you care about the dog park. You're interviewing this person. They say, "Oh, I wish there was more stuff for families to do." For you not to say, "Don't you think a dog park would be a good idea?" Oh, that would be a good idea. Dog park.
You just say, hey, I'm walking South Lake, I don't want dogs running.
Right, but I mean,
He said it's for fishing.
but I mean, that's an example though of how you have to take your step back a little bit. You wouldn't want to plant that seed like, I've always thought that'd be a good location for a dog park. Oh my gosh, you're right. Like, that's
Then
not
would
what
that
we're
mean,
supposed
like,
to be
where
doing.
we say, why would you like a dog park? What, like, how does that improve the town? To which I would say,
If they bring it up.
It gives our senior citizens a safe place to walk their dogs
Right.
without worrying about confrontation with an off-leash dog.
Uh,
So we could
I
take
have a
that
feeling
and
every
thicker
interview could
data.
involve dog.
We'll see, won't we? Yeah. But I mean,
I live in the country. I wouldn't even use it. I just think it's a good idea.
But you see, so I think the first thing we got to do is someone just needs to interview Sarah and ask her about dog parks. We get it all out of the way, and then when you're doing your interviews, then we'll see how often it comes up. But I mean, that's a good example though of how we have to be careful not to lead people down to where
That's what I'm
we
saying.
want
So
them to
instead of
go.
that, you would just say like, why is this something you want, or why is this so important to you?
Oh, but just a lot of things
I
like.
wish there was something.
What would you,
I wish
what
there
would
was
you,
something.
Yeah.
what would you suggest?
Yeah,
would
do
be
you
a
have
good
any
thing?
ideas?
Yeah.
Can we ask them that? Like,
Oh,
any
no,
ideas?
absolutely. Like someone like they could say, "Oh, I wish there were more outdoor recreation opportunities here." Oh, what would you want to see? And then that's fine because you're following up on the question they asked or the thing that they said. But what you don't want to say is, "Don't you wish there were more healthy outdoor?" Oh gosh, I do wish there were more healthy outdoor things to do. Like, then you planted that seed. You got to let them say it first, then dig deeper, man. That's your opening.
Yeah, so it's okay. Like, I mean, if they say like, I wish there was more shopping, then you could say,
Like
kind of
what?
shopping? Why do you want more shopping? What?
Right. Or
what does it do when you don't have shopping?
Or some of the things like when I ask that question, people say, "Oh, I wish we had more shopping." I'll say, "Oh, are there things you can't buy here?
Yes.
Where do you have to go to buy that now? Do you think would there be an opportunity to bring that here? What would that look like?" Then they're answering the question like, "Oh, I do have to go out of town for this." Because that's data then for your team, because eventually you're going to have an idea for action. You're going to have a whole list of ideas. And one of those ideas might be, we need a store that provides these things because people told us they want it here. That's a very actionable thing then, versus we need more shopping. Like, that's meaningless, really. I mean, you need to.
You have to go out of town.
But to buy what, right? That's what your team needs to find out, so that if there's a list of, if there's potential entrepreneurs in your town, they're going to be like, well, I want to open a shop. I wonder what it should be. Well, you should have data to give them to say, well, here's what folks said they can't buy in town that they'd like to.
1%
That's at least a place for them to start, right? So that's your job, is to get that out of people as a team. And this is
when you're over here making the files, if dog park only had one piece of paper.
Yeah.
Right.
A cat park.
Right. No, I mean, but that's a good example, like what Sid just said there. That's a good example of how you need to follow the data. Like the data is the data. And that's why if you do it as a team like this, there's less chance that any bias is going to get into it, and dog park's not going to end up on there if there's only one piece of paper that says it. That's just not how it goes. But that, yeah, and you'll do the same thing you did over here with that. You'll do that with the ideas for action too, and say what do folks want to see happen here.
The one thing I think about is when you talk about shops, and because I've tried to analyze some of those things. So like somebody says we like to have a shoe store. In my mind, immediately I'm like, well, it's not feasible because it's so hard to do that, you know, and make it work. But I don't want to knock it down either.
No.
As an interviewer, I just want to take that information and then see how many people, other people say the same thing.
That's another really good example. Like your role as an interviewer is not to really engage in the back and forth with that person. Like oh, we used to have a shoe store here, and I know it didn't really work out for these 5. We tried that 10 years ago. Yeah. And then because that person then feels defeated, right? You just shot them down. Or you ought to be like, oh, that's interesting. Just write it down. Even if you have a whole bunch of information about why that'll never work, you just got to keep it to yourself because that's not our role as interviewers. Yep. Because you'll, especially like when you talk to kids, did those guys leave already? Okay. A lot of times when you're asking kids, like, what kinds of things would you like to see in this town? Oh, I wish we had an NFL team, or oh, I wish we had a McDonald's or an Arby's or a Chick-fil-A or whatever. And you're just like,
or a cave.
You know, it's just like that's what they're saying. Even though in your heart you're going, dude, we'll never have that here. You can't say that to them. You know what I mean? You just got to listen and write it down and move on. Yeah.
Monroe City
But you
Panthers.
can still dig into
we
it
got
more
the
to find
feedback,
out
so you don't
why.
need
Yeah,
And the
right?
code.
yeah,
Maybe it's a flavor of McDonald's.
Don't-
They
don't
want a
go to
burger
the
place, or
say-
they want
Well, yeah, like
a place for them to hang out
right.
and get cheap food.
So that's a good point though. Kim just said, you know, just because they say McDonald's, like what would make McDonald's appealing to you? Or, oh, I want something that's open after 5 o'clock. I want a place where me and my friends can hang out. I want something that's quick and inexpensive. Those are all the characteristics they might be looking for in McDonald's. So even if you're not going to actually get a McDonald's, maybe you could still do some of that stuff.
Rec
To go
center.
after the football game, or to hang out.
Yeah.
To buy
No,
some
KFC.
meal or-
Yeah, there's other things you could do. It's just probably not going to be an Arby's or whatever. Yeah. So those are all really good examples of how you have to kind of dig a little deeper.
People in other towns think that's so weird. Like, together?
Got me.
All right, well,
got
everybody
me
take a seat.
donuts.
We'll kind of get back here together as a group.
Yummy
Moving
donuts.
through things here.
Yummy. A bakery for dogs.
Okay, I've got an example here. This is something from Galesburg, Illinois. This is another example of how we can look at data differently and think about how we're getting thick data out of thin data. So it might be, I don't know if this is in your book or not, this picture of, so if you're sitting far away, you might not be able to see. So this is kind of in Galesburg, they asked people, what is the most important place in town? And this little kid put a Target here, and it's like a skate place here. So if you just saw that on a piece of paper, what do you think this means?
He's got a single mom.
What?
He's got a single mom.
No, this is a child.
I know.
Oh,
Yeah, he has a single mom. They go to Target, and their mom takes him to the skate park because he was good at Target.
okay.
Yeah, she
Drive them to be good in Target.
Well, there is a Target
Drive
in
them
this
to be
town.
good in Target.
So why would you think a little kid wants to go to Target?
shopping for toys.
Shopping for toys,
Neatos.
right?
Neatos.
Yeah, all this kind of stuff, right? So I want to play you a little audio clip because this kid wrote this down, but then the project coordinator was there and asked a little bit more, like tell me a little bit more about why you put Target. So hopefully you can hear this. Use my right hand
I'm going to start with something very simple that people can use anywhere, and I'm calling this very informally the Galesburg Butcher Project. We've only just begun it. We were only able to do this like at the end of the school year last year. We had to have a break during the summer because obviously the kids weren't in school, and then we're starting this again. But it's really been an illustrative experience. I have 3 photos here of drawings that kids have made for us when we have pulled out big pieces of butcher block, laid them on the floor out in the hallway of their outside their classrooms, and we've asked them the question, what do you love about our town, Galesburg? And so you will see that there was a child who drew a target. And one of the things that's been really important for us as adults to do and interviewers is to pull back and not make assumptions about people's ideas and words and stories. So this child, as an adult, I kind of went in with the assumption that she liked Target because, that's where she bought her toys or candy or clothes. But what she ended up telling us when we interviewed her about her picture was that her mom worked at Target, and the mom had worked there for quite a while, and she felt that the other workers there were her family. That's where she connected. So this simple little picture is full of meaning. And that's one of the things that we found throughout this project. These are just images of children's drawings. They're very rudimentary. I think this was a classroom of 4th and 5th grade students. So images of, I was going to reference Glory Days, and it's a barbershop. And the little boy says he loves going to the barbershop because I think his parents were divorced, and he and his dad would get to go there, and they had cool things in the barbershop. So, again, it wasn't a story that I expected to come out of that particular drawing. This can be done anywhere. It can be done with, children in schools all the way through nursing homes. So as long as you can pull back, listen carefully to what people say, and then record their story, that becomes an important way to understand where somebody's coming from.
So I thought that's a good example, right? I've always tried to dig a little bit deeper on this kind of stuff. All right, the next activity is going to be a little bit of practice on how to do actual story listening. So this is an interview that someone videotaped, and I've got some story listening sheets here. And as you're listening to this story, when you're listening to people do interviews like this, or when you're talking to them, you need to decide what's important. What fits into one of those 3 categories? You've got your what matters most, you've got hopes and concerns, and you've got ideas for action. So as you are listening to stories, you've got to be able to quickly extract things in those 3 categories. And sometimes your data team might not actually be at the interview. They might have a video like this, or they might have a written transcript. So how would you, as the person who is maybe on the data team or the story listening team, how are you extracting data from an interview like this? How are you figuring out what matters most, like what goes in, the what matters most, the hopes and concerns, and the ideas for action? So I want you to listen to this interview and kind of listen with intent, listen carefully, and on your piece of paper, start to think about what are the things that would get categorized that way. You'll also notice here at the bottom, it says notable quotes. Like, is there anything she says in this interview that you're like, oh, that was really cool. Like, that'd be a good Facebook post, or that'd be a good clip to extract out and put on a social media or something like that, or a good quote to put on a little poster and put up, in a downtown window. Like, is there anything she says that you want to remember? So I'm going to play this clip now. Take notes on your sheet about what she's saying, and we'll kind of come back together as a group and see if you all kind of heard the same things.
My name is Melissa McGargle. I have been in the Williamsport area since 2008. I moved to Williamsport after I got discharged from the United States Air Force. I was engaged to somebody from this particular area, And so I moved here, actually from the state of Michigan. I really kind of fell in love with being able to just go on a walk along the river, being in the middle of the mountains. Being from Michigan, it's very flat. So I definitely enjoy being able to do a hike in the mountains and kind of have the best of all the worlds and drive, 3 hours in any direction and be, on the coast or almost home to Michigan. And I love sort of the atmosphere of art that is here in the Williamsport area. I think that it's a missing thing that our kids are losing as programs are being dropped from schools. The first thing to go is art and music and drama, and it is so important for those things to remain because those things are what form kids and form their personality beyond I can do math or I have some knowledge about history. So to me, the arts are more important for really developing their personality. Probably all of that artist stuff. There's actually an art tour that people can take and go around town and see these things that are created by local people. I think that if you lose some of that, it would lose some of its appeal. And I think you would lose some people, the people who are artistic or in the arts, doing plays and things like that, that do that here. If you take that away, they're just going to go do it somewhere else. And I think that would definitely be sad for Williamsport. I think that getting the kids involved at that base level, some of the summer programs or school programs that encourage them to do those things instead of canceling programs because they're not funded anymore. So encouraging kids to get in the band and join the various art programs. And I love that we have a lot of local companies like the Wine and Design and the various pottery places that kids can go in and create with their own hands something and come out of it feeling like they accomplished something. So I think that's what I would like to see more kids have the opportunity to do, because unfortunately those places do charge, so the kids that really need it aren't getting it as much as they should be. Oh, I really would love to see more change in the housing. Obviously, I work in a homeless shelter, and I think, our area has been through the ups and downs of the gas industry. We've been through landlords raising their rents, bringing their rents back down, but really seeing people take pride in what they have. I have been through places that I wouldn't allow a pet to live in, let alone a family to live in. And so I really would love to see the area engage itself a little bit more and landlords to take more pride in their places and fix them up and make it beautiful again so that people, I think if you have a nice place, they will treat it nice, but if they live in a dump, they're gonna treat it like a dump. And so I think one has to come before the other, and if you can get people to start making more homes look presentable but also affordable, then families are going to treat those places with respect, and then the area will continue to grow and become more beautiful overall.
Okay.
Probably just that we have a great community.
Okay. So what kinds of things did you hear from Melissa? What really matters to her? What kinds of things did you hear her talking about? Arts. Yep, she mentioned that several times. Arts and culture.
Developing the children through those different arts.
Getting youth involved in the arts, right? And she likes the fact that there are already ways for youth to get involved, right?
Being a part of the homeless shelter.
Okay, she cares a lot about housing, right? She talked about that. And
quality and affordable housing.
And that's kind of a hope for her though, right? She wishes they had better affordable housing. She wishes that landlords took better care of their properties. That's not something that's happening right now. That's a hope for the future. What else did she say she really likes about her town?
Recreation, walking along the river.
She mentioned the mountains and the outdoor recreation, yeah. Oh, and what'd you say, Bridget?
3 hours to the
Yeah, like really easy access to both the mountains and to the coastlines, yep.
She likes the local artistry, the shop owners that give the opportunities.
And that kind of came at the end, didn't it? Like, because even though the questions early on were kind of about what you love, at the very end she's like, I like that we have businesses that have classes and things for people, or for kids that they can take to learn about the arts. That came all the way at the end. So that's one of the challenges with this, is it's all mixed up together.
But then her concern was that it costs money.
Her concern was that it's not equitable, right? So she loves that we have these businesses, but then at the very end of it, she said, well, my concern is not all kids can pay for it. Okay? So right in that one sentence, they had both something that she loves, something that matters to her, and a concern in the same sentence. It's hard, right? You gotta put those things, categorize those things out. Were there any other hopes and concerns that she talked about?
She talked about dilapidation.
Yeah, the condition of the housing, and that landlords don't care or don't take care of their housing, that was a big concern. Don't take pride in their houses, right? That's a concern.
Talk about losing programs in school.
Yes, she did, about defunding arts programs and things. That's certainly a concern.
People that leave town if there wasn't an art community.
Yeah, people will leave if we don't have good support for the arts. She definitely mentioned that. That's a good concern to note. What about ideas for action? Did she have anything specific in there about what could we do?
I was confused.
What was that?
A summer program.
Summer programs, like for the arts, right?
I was confused whether the art tour was something they were already doing or something she wanted.
I wasn't
Yeah.
It sounded like you're right though. I was confused about that too, whether they're doing it or they need to do it or.
I thought she said it was like a really cool thing, so maybe that's something we could share out, maybe other people don't know.
I mean, if you lived in this, if you lived in this town, you'd know. Like, whether, we don't live there, so we don't know. But yeah.
But I marked it as a blue, even not knowing, because I thought it is existing, we could still help to stand it up and lift it up if it's a good program.
Well, and that's a good point, Allie, because some of the things that she was noting as a concern, an idea for action would be funding the summer programs.
Yeah.
Or supporting the art tour. Like, those are things that you could do. Like, we need to find funding for the summer arts programs. And that's certainly something that she talked about. Anything else you took note on and you want to throw up here?
One thing I was, if we were kind of forced to have to listen to it one time and try to dissect it, and one time if we were really trying to get all the information out of it, I would just listen through it first and then go back to it and dissect it. Because I think I'm going to pick up things the second time that I missed it. Because I was trying to keep up and write and listen, and we wouldn't do that in a normal setting. If we were looking at this tape and trying to do this, I think we'd do it a little different.
Sure, yeah, that's probably fair. One of the other things too is, myself, like maybe me, if I was the person doing this interview, I would not be taking notes like you were, because I'd really want to be listening, but maybe later on I would watch the video. So I would have heard it the first time she said it, and the second time I could listen more, like to extract information.
That's the video thing is very important, I think, so that to not miss anything.
And the other thing too, and I think Sarah or somebody mentioned, when you record things like this, often you can get a generated written transcript. Like most of the programs that you use for this will give you a written transcript. So that's another way too. You can just like look at the written word and do like you all did. You put stuff with blue, red, and green.
The fact she was in the Air Force.
She was in the Air Force. They mentioned that. Yep, she sure did. Or she was in the military. Yep.
One of her ideas for action was beautification of the housing.
Did she have an idea on how to do that though, or was that like a hope?
She wanted the landlords to.
Yeah, she wanted the landlords to improve the housing specifically.
Her concern was that she had a concern that if the houses continued in the condition they were, then like people were going to treat them bad. Like if they look better. So that was like a hope. If they look better, people will treat them better.
I guess what I would say though, like that's one that's really hard to put in the right category. Because for me, when I hear that, I'm like, well, I wish I had $1 million too. That's not going to happen, right? Like, so to me, like when I hear that about landlords should do more, take better care of their
she
property.
said beautification.
Beautification.
So
to me,
that's kind of like an action word.
But it's not action unless you can measure it. Like, so what are we going to measure? Like, is there some sort of a program? But I guess what I'm saying is, to me, that's a concern or a hope. Oh, I wish the landlords would beautify their property. And the action would be, the city's housing commission should have an inspector that comes through or whatever. Like, that's an action. So, but it's hard. Like, it's on the line.
Well, another action on that could be find out what the city's already doing. Or not doing, or maybe there's an ordinance that they're not following, or whatever.
And there's a difference between just like dilapidation and beautification. Like just being habitable is not the same as what she's talking about, like actually making it nice. So there's all kinds of things you could unpack there, but I would caution you, like you always want to make sure that anything you're going to put on your action list is something that you could actually like do. So think about that.
That one would be hard because not many people would know how to make that
It's
happen.
really hard, yeah. So, because that's always what, you're going to be held accountable at some point for your action plan. And if you publish this action plan and a year later, someone says, hey, you got beautify, landlords are supposed to beautify their property. Why did that happen? You guys are like, well, how do we do that?
Yeah.
Well, shoot, we probably shouldn't have put that on there because that's not really an action, you know? Yeah. So that's, you always got to kind of think down the road about what you're going to be held accountable for. So that's just one example of how you're going to be extracting data from these interviews, from focus groups, from all that kind of stuff. So and part of this is what we just did today was just kind of the first, like we're touching upon how this gets done. You're going to have sub-teams and groups of volunteers who are going to be doing this stuff, and I have focused in trainings for the volunteers who are going to do these very specific things. So this might be something you never do again. If you're on the events team, you might never have to do this, but there's going to be a group of people in your team who this is what they're going to do. So I have a focused in training that's about the story gathering part, like how to do that story gathering strategy sheet. So if you've got 3 or 4 people who want to work on that story gathering strategy, we can hop on a Zoom call and I will teach those folks how to fill out that sheet and what that looks like. So that's kind of a separate training for that group. There's another training for data. Like how do we analyze this data? How do we get it in the right categories? How do we put it onto that sheet that Linda was asking about? I've got a training for that too. So if you've got a data team that's going to be in charge of data, I've got a separate training just for those folks on how to get more. We don't want to take the time here to do it. So those are, and then I've also got a focused in training about interviewing. Like you've got a group of people like, I want to do interviews, but I don't know how. I can help with that too. So those are things that Bridget and I will talk about, like how do we get a Zoom call or something together for the folks on those individual teams who want to do that stuff. So the next steps as we kind of go down your work plan here really is going to be once you collect that data from all the interviews, from surveys, from all those things, you are going to sit down just like this team was doing over here and start to analyze that data and figure out what really matters most to people. That's the stage that we're in right now. And you can see that they've actually taken their Excel spreadsheet that has all their data on it and they cut it up into little pieces and they're sorting it out just like y'all were doing over here. Like that literally is how we do this stage. It's at this stage that, I don't know if anybody in here is inclined to think this way, where I've had teams say, well, can't we just put all this stuff into ChatGPT and it'll spit it all out? Because guess what? It would, right? If you took all that spreadsheet stuff and you said, hey, ChatGPT, give me the most common themes that you see in all this data, in 5 seconds, you'd have everything all categorized. Now, I'm telling you that because even though you can do that, I don't think you should do that. Largely because I think even what your team saw over here, there's value, right? But there's value in doing what you did. like having other people looking at it and really understanding the data deeply matters in this, because it's not always the product. The product is important, but it's the process of you all talking to your neighbors and understanding the data and hearing what people care about. That's actually the most important part, not really even how we end up with that plan. You all have to do this work, and doing it the way that we've done it like this is much more meaningful than 5 seconds later you got ChatGPT that gives you the answer. Now, I'm not saying that, because I've had teams do this and then they kind of check their work using ChatGPT. That's fine, because then you can compare what the AI bot said with what you came up with, and sometimes you learn something like, oh, yeah, that is kind of interesting. That's an interesting way of looking at it. But the other thing that often happens is when you see the data from ChatGPT, you know, if you've ever used one of these things, that it can hallucinate. Or it can tell you what it thinks you want to hear. Monroe City is the best town ever, and you're like, well, it is pretty great, but this is pretty good. Like, you all made Monroe City look pretty good in this. I've seen too much of that kind of stuff. So you really want to keep it real.
This is why you're Winter's favorite person.
Right?
That's a question we should ask our interviews is, who is your favorite person in Monroe City and why is it Caleb?
And why is it Nancy?
So after you analyze your data, you're going to start hearing lots of great stories. You're going to get lots of good information. It's really important to think about how you're sharing that back out into the community. And the nice thing about Heart and Soul is that you do not have to wait until the end of the process to share this data. Both of these examples here are from towns where within their process, before they got done, they were taking snippets or things that they heard from their data or from their friends and neighbors, and they were putting it up on posters at an event at the library. They were having story sharing events during their process so that people could take part and hear about this, because what you don't want to be doing is doing this work in a black box. You don't want to be collecting all these stories and hiding them, and at the very end you reveal everything, and the community says, where did that come from? I've never heard that before. Who told you that? Like, you really want to have check-in points throughout your process where you're sharing this back out. Here, and you can see these little thought bubbles. They actually took excerpts from their interviews and put them on pieces of paper and put them up on, and they got them by categories: local economy, youth and families, small town feel. And they took quotes and put them on a piece of paper so folks could be like, oh yeah, that does kind of sound like our town. Or where'd you hear that from? Who told you that? I've never heard that before. You want to give people a chance to interact with the data. The other thing you can kind of see at the edge here is they made word clouds. Has anybody ever had experience making those word clouds? So they took all of their data from what matters most and put it into a big word cloud, and it came up, and the words that come up bigger are the ones that people said the most, or the most frequently. So you can say, it's people, and our town, it's quiet, it's safe, it's small. Like, that's the things that people love about their town, and this was what would make our town even better. And it's got, movie theaters and bike paths and stuff like that. And you can really, it's a good visual way for people to interact with very complex sets of data in a very visual, easy to access way. So we'll talk about how to share the data back out as well as you get a little further down the road. This is another example. They had this town had some of their stories laid out on a table. They had a public event. But this is really where, now that you kind of understand what needs to happen in phase 2, we're going to dig a little bit deeper on getting those sub-teams kind of organized around some of these projects and making sure that they're on track to reach their goals. So the result of if you look ahead in your booklet, you're going to see some stuff in your booklet about creating your heart and soul statements. The product of your phase 2 data is going to be what we call our heart and soul statements, and this is a list of the what matters most data is going to be compiled into a set of maybe 6 to 8 statements that really says this is what makes Monroe City special. And it's always things like, we love our outdoor recreation spaces because like the lake and the rec center and the ball diamonds, because they provide healthy outdoor spaces for for our families to enjoy. That's what you saw in the data. We love our downtown business district because it's unique, it has a great character, and creates jobs in our community. You know, you're going to have a set of those things based upon what you heard from your data, and that's going to be, we're not going to get into that today because that's kind of your next step, but creating those heart and soul statements is going to be what comes out of this phase of your data. Eventually, those heart and soul statements will be the guiding principles that we use to prioritize ideas for action. Like, do the things that people want to do here actually strengthen those heart and soul statements that are what people said they care about in our town. So that'll be the next stage of your training. So we'll get to that at a later date, but I just want to give you a preview of that. And there are some examples of heart and soul statements and things in your phase 2 workbook if you want to read ahead, but I didn't want to get too into that today because it can really be a little distracting. So the next steps here for your team are to start planning your story gathering activities. And that's something we'll do. I'll have that focused in training with your story gathering group so you can start to get that strategy together. We're going to start thinking about how we're going to categorize the data, how we're going to analyze it, and get it into a format that you can start using to create those heart and soul statements. Start thinking about how we're going to share those stories back out into the broader community. And the whole time thinking about how you're using your community network analysis to make sure that you're building community and keeping people tied together so they can hear each other's stories and learn more about the data, or learn more about themselves by seeing that data. So we're going to need to think about when we're going to do the story gathering strategy meetings. Thinking about your work plan, and Bridget and I will go through these first couple items here, about right up to here, and think about how we get those metrics in place to measure your progress. Thinking about who's going to be responsible for those things. Those are kind of the next steps. I know you've got regular meetings already set, so we don't need to sit here today and think about that, but those are kind of the next steps. How are we all feeling about this?
Good.
Good.
Good. That's the right answer right there. Yes.
I was just gonna say, I was out at the very beginning of your intro getting ice, and I didn't know if we'd have shared with everyone, if everyone in here really knows when you reference the core team, who that is. And then if you want to sign up for a subgroup and aren't already on our list, what to do.
Yes, we did. We really didn't go over
No, we didn't talk about that specifically, but now's a good time to do that. Yeah, we can talk about that.
There's a good thing in the community, the Monroe City Jam session.
No.
Yeah.
Monroe City Jam session?
Yeah.
Is it just you and Nancy, and Nancy's got the
No.
You betcha, right?
I feel a Facebook Live coming.
So Julie, you got the list there, Julie?
The sign-in sheet.
Oh, the sign-in sheet, okay.
Do you have the updated list?
Let's see if I have one with, probably in my.
I was trying to go off memory. I can tell you what I jotted down.
Yeah, I have it on my phone. You start.
Okay, Bridget and Julie and Allie and Lindsay and Nancy, Sid, now Caleb, Jason, Lori, who's out on a vacation, and Kim. I think we're the original core
team.
There's a
Yeah, that was something that I didn't know exactly who to include on that list, because phase 1 we had people come.
Right.
And
haven't heard from them again.
Yeah, didn't really know.
I don't know either. That's a good thing to ask this group, how do we continue to engage with somebody who's maybe hopped on a call once or twice, or did come to the first one and isn't here tonight. But I don't really know the answer to that. I guess, Julie, sorry to call you out, but a lot of them that came that first night were DTMC. Do you know why they, just ideas on, do we continue to engage with all of them, or just do it through you and Sid, and Lori?
Probably just do it through me. A lot of them tonight were either busy on vacation or just
It's a,
Sid is no longer on.
oh, sad.
He ditched us.
He's on our core team.
But he is still a part of this, so, I always send out the information to our team.
So you'll share with downtown Monroe City, okay?
So are you going to subcommittees? Have you already?
Well,
Subcommittees, are you already interviewing?
no, we're not, nope, no, this was our training to learn.
Someone told me this interview.
No, we went to Lakeside Casting for a Who Lives, Works, and Plays activity, which was actually to expand our community network analysis.
But we did.
But we did talk to them.
Deep conversations with them.
We did.
So it was nice. I mean, it probably felt like an interview. I mean, we were,
Yeah.
we had great conversations.
That's great.
There was a lot of reflecting.
Yes.
I people really into it.
I was surprised by the amount of people that you have to literally like pull in there. They were literally avoiding us. With
Oh, yeah.
pizza and breakfast.
They were like, they walked in, they go,
Get some food
I
out.
forgot this was going on. We're like, oh, just get some
Like,
pizza.
we're not
Right.
that scary.
And then
It
we
was-
slide in there. No.
It was difficult.
It was, and about half the people totally avoided coming in.
Yeah.
They went hungry that day.
For lunch.
Yeah.
Do you see that quite a bit?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But the people who were there, most of them, they enjoyed it,
Yeah.
and they got into it, they opened up, and
And a lot of what you're doing, underlying almost everything that you're doing is like you're building trust with people to do something that they've never done before. Like, why should I trust you with my story? Who are you to ask me these questions? So the first time you talk to those folks, maybe they don't say anything. The second time they see you, they're going to be like, you know, this maybe is real, but they still don't talk to you. Then the third time they see you, they're going to be like, oh, this is legit, and I've seen other people participating, and I'd like to now tell you my story. It's a long game. I mean, this is not something that happens overnight, building that trust. So I'm not, so to Julie's point, I'm not surprised at all. But that's just kind of how it goes. You just have to be patient. But you'll have other ways of getting those folks. Like there might be a poster that they'll write on. There might be a survey that they'll fill out anonymously. Those are other ways that they can get involved versus like talking one-on-one. So you're trying to give people multiple ways to get involved.
yeah, giving people the sticky notes to write like their connections to Monroe City. They didn't really seem to want to do that. So we would just talk them, we'd write it down and we'd stick it up
Yep,
there.
that's
And
fine,
go,
too.
"Okay, thanks."
Yep.
Or some
Or
just
if
want
you're
to be
like trying to
involved.
extract like data from people like that directly, then it feels very political to them and they don't want to get on one side or the other or like take a firm stance on anything because they don't want to go on record and say, no, I hate the idea of a dog park. Like they don't want their post it in their handwriting to come out later on Facebook because somebody's got their excuse. But if you are just talking to them and you're like, okay, and you just have a conversation like they're your neighbor and you know, are just talking and let the conversation flow naturally, they're gonna share more information with you and you can extract
And that's
that.
probably why they felt like a community interview. I mean, because we really just had.
Because you're sitting there with a picture cup and a PC's on you.
Yeah, come on.
So the other thing too is there is a master spreadsheet on the Google Drive. There's a spot on that spreadsheet to list out all the names of the people who are on your core team and all the sub-teams. And that's something that people on this team can look at together. So I think that would be a good way to have your master list of who's on which team on your spreadsheet.
I think we do need to, because there's people that are listed on that, because that's, everybody is on there, but I think there's several people that are even listed on the core team that I'm not sure that they're actually on the core team, which is fine.
They said yes one time.
And for some of those people, Allie, you're right, like they said yes that one time, but it might be a good way to follow up and say, you don't have to come to like the core team meetings, but could you help with events? Could you help with data? You don't have to come to a bunch of meetings if you help with some of this other stuff. So it's a good way to keep those folks on the list, just shift them from the core list to one of the sub-teams where there's more to do. Sometimes people want to actually do stuff.
Yes, and if there's a sub-team that you are interested in, you can tell me right now, and I will.
So right now, you've got story gathering.
Yes.
Event planning.
Story listening.
Story listening, which is attached to data, usually, but.
Communication/storytelling.
Yeah.
Data, and then finance.
Yeah.
The fun one.
Yeah, our finance one's pretty well-rounded, I think.
That's pretty standard, yeah.
Yep. We definitely need people on the story gathering.
You have three on story gathering.
I would like to do story gathering.
Okay, I kind of figured you.
Story gathering?
So the story
Oh, I might do that.
gatherers.
I might know how to do that.
With that, so they're planning how to get the stories, I should look at the details,
Yeah.
and also going out
Yes.
and, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought,
Yeah.
Sarah and I will help you on that.
okay.
Gathering.
Yeah, the gathering.
Yeah.
I just get voluntold.
Yeah,
Help can help.
yeah, and we also thought maybe the people that are on our volunteer list, if we haven't heard from them, we might just put them on a committee, and then if they don't wanna be on it, they can
Right.
not show up. And also, the subcommittees will start having their own individual meetings for either training or just.
Did you get Michelle's name on the news, on the gathering?
Yep.
Because what happens is too, is just by the nature of what your plan looks
She's a
like,
nice lady.
like those story gathering folks, they're really only working in phase 2.
3.
Like they might do a little bit in phase 3, but most of the story gathering happens here, so it's kind of focused. So you're not, whereas the event folks have to, there's gonna be events throughout, the communications and marketing folks, they work throughout, but the data folks and the story gatherers are mostly here. So sometimes people, I can't do this for 6 months, well then just do it here, or whatever.
And what does that period look like for phase 2? Is that like a 6 months or
I hope it's a lot shorter than that.
shorter?
What,
3
phase
months?
two?
Phase 2.
2 months?
I would say probably 4 months, I'm thinking, just because you're probably gonna wanna take it from now through the fall, like the early fall.
Yeah, I feel like we're in fall, we're not yet.
No, we're not yet.
I mean, I just,
But I
it's
know
like
it's
we're fall
fall, like,
from
a
me, it's
hard
just
time
like
to
I feel like.
It's just that this is hard to do sometimes in the summer, because folks are busy and they're hard to handle.
I think it's a football.
But you kinda gotta get it done between now and before the holidays, because once the holidays hit, that's yet one more excuse for folks won't do anything. Oh, I can't do anything in December because of the holidays, like, okay, whatever. I can do something during the holidays.
Can you kind of go over what the story listening?
So the story listening, they're the ones that kind of work with the data team to extract data from the interviews and put it onto those spreadsheets so we can start to analyze it.
So does the data team need to start working as soon as stories start coming in?
I would recommend it just
Okay,
because.
we're pulling, say that more time? What's the data team pulling from the stories?
Well, the story listening and the data team kind of work together to get the story, the data, like extract the data from the stories and put it on their spreadsheet. So we can start to analyze it like this, like and put it in little piles and stuff.
So the story listening and data team are separate, or are they?
It depends. Every town kind of does it differently. Some of them, they combine them because they're very closely connected. It's just sometimes the skills are different. Like if you've got a ton of data and you've got like spreadsheet nerds, they don't want to listen to stories. They just want to analyze and get it categorized. Whereas some folks like, oh, I like to choose whether it's a idea or a hope or whatever. And sometimes those folks are different from the spreadsheet folks.
So it sounds
Sometimes they're the same.
Can I like summarize from my own brain? So let's just say Linda takes the story. Who's somebody on the gathering team? Somebody on the gathering team does the underlining.
Sarah and Michelle.
Essentially, not.
They could.
Not. And then someone from data takes what's underlined and aggregates it into the.
Puts it on the, like sorts it into the different piles. Yep, and starts to code it. Yeah.
We don't
So the gathering team is the prompt that you're putting into ChatGPT, and the data team is the ChatGPT answer of it.
As soon as you said ChatGPT, I was like, ooh, Allie.
I wrote it down.
She already had it down.
I put AI tool question mark.
We can talk later.
No, I thought you were saying
there are benefits. There's a place for it. Just, we've got to do it
There's
smart.
definitely benefits because there's no confirmation bias. You're not personally, they are not personally invested in the community, so they're not like geared to like favor one opinion or the other.
I did have to tell.
And it can like use psychology, multiple data points, and like explain the rationale for why it's like that.
Yeah.
In a objective way.
Somewhat. I mean,
you can't rely all on AI, but it can give some insight that is completely.
So it sounds like your next step is really to make sure you get your sub teams organized, right, and start communicating with those folks. The next real step though is you don't necessarily have to start digging in on, like I will still need to meet, once you get your story gathering team together, I want to meet with them and talk about that strategy sheet. Like how do you start filling that out?
Like within a week?
It could be, yeah, whenever you feel it ready, whenever you feel like you got your team together, I can meet with them. It's just a Zoom call.
Do you have a good number for each team based on our community size?
I would say you probably need 5 or 6 folks on your story gathering at least.
And how many interviews?
Do the events people also, like, do they plan, that's, I mean, like you could be at an event and gather data, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's like an event, like if you're gonna have a table at an event, there's several different teams that would have to contribute to that. Like the events folks might be the ones that get the food and get the door prizes and get the banner and the tables and stuff. But the story gathering folks will be the ones to say, here's the questions, here's the activity that we need to do. Here are the questions we need to ask. How should we do that? Should it be a poster? Should it be interviews? Whatever. So they have to work together on that. But then you've also got like the communications folks who need to publicize it. Put the flyers together and all that stuff.
Julie, can we come to Billy's and Beer and do anything?
Yes. Please come to Billy's and Beer. Yes, absolutely.
Because they're also, you're probably going to want to have, like, and this is kind of what you're talking about, Michelle. You're going to want to have some events of your own, too. Like, you're not just going to always go to someone else's event. Like, when you have these heart and soul statements ready, you're probably going to want to have an event of your own and invite people to a place and say, hey, everybody, we've got these heart and soul statements. What do you think? Do we have it right? Do we get it right? And people can, like, look at it and stuff. See, or you might have a storytelling event that you organize. I'm going to throw this out here. I mention this to every town that I'm in, and only one of them so far has taken me up on it. Have I talked to you all about the Pachakacha yet? Did I mention that? Okay. A Pachaka, did I mention this one time?
No. I was wondering if it's the bike.
No.
What word are you saying?
So this is now write this down. It's a Pachakacha. It's called P-E-C-H-A. That's the Pacha part. But Kacha is K-U-C-H-A. Pachakacha.org. So P-E-C-H-A-K-U-C-H-A.org. This is an international storytelling organization. And they help towns like Monroe City set up storytelling events.
What?
Okay? And it's the coolest thing because what happens is you find people that have good stories to tell, and you help them tell their story. And the format is really easy because they take 20 PowerPoint slides, and the PowerPoint slides change automatically every 20 seconds. So you can't. So every presentation is like a little bit more than 5 minutes long, and it's only images, no words. So you find people in Monroe City that have good stories to tell, and you say, listen, you've got 20 slides, you can put anything you want on them, but they're going to change every 20 seconds automatically. And you have like a little event at a bar or a restaurant where people get drinks and beers and food, and people get up and say, I'm going to tell you about, I'm a stamp collector, and I love collecting stamps. And they've got pictures of their stamps and stuff, and it's just a great way for people who maybe aren't good public speakers to have a format that they can use. And oh God, how do I put a talk together? Don't overthink it. What would it be, Michelle?
A great thing for kids. I can see it.
It's really fun. And so in Dubuque, we do this every quarter. Like there's a Pachakacha event every quarter, and it moves around to different restaurants and bars. And they find 7 or 8 people every event. So they have like 4 people will do it, 1, 2, 3, 4. They have a little break, and people get food and beers, and they do another 3 or 4. And it goes really quickly because they only take 5 minutes. And you can tell a whole bunch of stories. So you all, when you're doing interviews, you could find those people who got really good stories and say, we got this event next month. You should do a little presentation. You don't have to call it Pachakacha, that's too weird or whatever. But on that pachakacha.org website, there's a whole bunch of examples of like videos of people doing this. So it might give you a better idea. But it's remember we were talking about how do you share stories back out into the community? You have a storytelling event. That's how you share stories. Clinton, Iowa, where I did Heart and Soul, they did this event. It was so fun. Like they had a blast. So I think Monroe City ought to do it.
Cool. We were talking at our celebration with Buck and Celebrate, how it'd be neat to do some more things like TikTok videos or Instagram or like some of those other.
A jubilee circle.
Well, it's really a powerful way to share quick stories out in the community and get a conversation going. Yeah.
Newsletter.
The what?
A newsletter.
Oh, newsletter. Oh, yeah.
Whose line is it in?
Yeah, whose line is it in, right? Growing goods. We'll have a showing episode before we do it. Yeah.
So the next steps for me, I'm going to work with Bridget. We'll get some dates set up for those focused in trainings. I think that'll be kind of the next step to keep you all moving forward on this. And then we'll talk about getting a survey together and doing some interviews and what kinds of events you might want to schedule and all that stuff. So
One last quick question.
Yes.
So I like to have conversations, in line at Ground and Grace. And is it okay to get like that information just like that, and you want to make sure and record it on here?
you can, absolutely. Yep.
You just need to make sure that you're recording it, so you know the person that, okay.
And then give that to the data team or the story listening team. Yep.
And I assume anytime you are, like you did at the beginning with Sarah, saying, I'm going to record this. Obviously, if you're going to record it, but even if you're going to do that, like, would it be okay if I, if I use this information that you gave me?
Yeah.
I assume you would want to do that every time.
You
Yeah.
have to
And
record their name though?
no, you don't have to record their name.
Right, so.
But what's helpful, part of it is the data that you're collecting is never going to be attached to anybody individually.
Uh-huh.
But what you want to know, like if that happened at the grocery store checkout line, what you'd want to do is you record it on a sheet, and this is just to make sure you're keeping your CNA connected to this, to say, this was a 34-year-old white woman of middle income or something like that.
Can we guess?
Yes, you can
Because I was
guess.
doing that at Lakeside, I'm like.
Yes, you can guess. Because
I don't know, I'm not gonna ask.
Because Lindsay, if you're on that training that I'm gonna have, that's a good example. I will show you how to track that on your data sheet then. Because you can track it. It's just important, like how many women have we heard from? How long have they lived in Monroe City? And like Bridget said, you can guess, like, I know they've lived here their whole life. So you put 40 plus years or whatever. But you want to make sure you're tracking it to demographics, but not to who they are as individuals. That's immaterial, we don't care. But knowing who we've heard from is important.
So we go back to that document too to make sure that all those people that have been identified were reached.
Yes, exactly. And because you're going to tie, that story gathering strategy sheet. That's going to tie. You're going to make sure you're going to always be comparing that to your community network analysis to make sure. And there's some demographic tracking sheets on that master spreadsheet too that I'll show to Bridget and to the story gathering team. Like how do we know? How do we know we're on track? Well, there's little spreadsheets that kind of connect to each other to say, well, 45% of our data is from women, but 55% of the residents are women. Well, shoot, we haven't talked to enough women yet. So then the story gathering team knows they need to focus more on getting more stories from women or whatever.
So the story gathering plan kind of seems like the event planning committee might be closely tied to that, or no?
It can be, because a lot of what's going to be on your story gathering strategy, there will be some events, but a lot of it's going to be like, oh, we're going to do an online survey. Oh, we need to do 25 interviews. That doesn't have anything to do with the events team, but there will be some overlap. You're right. Like we want to have a story gathering event at the brewery or whatever. Well, then you probably want to get those folks involved. Hey, Bridget's excited.
It's July, September. Okay, that's too soon. The Economic Development Sales Tax Board is required to report out to the communities once a year, but we do it twice a year to the community on the investments and planning and strategic planning. And since this is an arm of their strategic planning, I was going to say perhaps we could have the Heart and Soul statements ready to unveil by then, but that probably won't.
Probably not,
But it could be a gathering event.
Can we, like next week, the economic, it's the beginning of next month.
Yeah, the board meets every Tuesday.
The first Tuesday of March.
Yep, and but the town hall is scheduled for October 5th.
You won't have your heart, but you'll have stuff like this to report.
Yeah, okay.
You'll have like quotes and stories and word clouds and all kinds of stuff. So, So yeah, you will have stuff to report, just won't be your heart and soul statements. But you'll be able to say, like, we've interviewed 45 people and we've collected 450 surveys. Like, you'll have that kind of data for sure by then. All right. Thanks everybody for showing up and spending all night with me here today. Hopefully you got a good idea of what's next. I'm assuming people should get food.
Yeah, you should take some food home.
Take some food home.
Sure. Everybody buy a can of food before you leave.
And everybody go get some food to take home.